What's going on, everybody? Appreciate you tuning in. Gonna talk a little NBA hoops here on a Sunday night. And second round is now over. We're headed to the conference finals. 4 teams left standing. Oklahoma City Thunder squaring off against the T-Wolves over here in the West. Meanwhile, over in the East, I don't know what's going on with these playoffs, but we got the Knicks squaring off against the Pacers straight out of the 90s showdown right now. I've been saying if you're a fan of the Suns, that you want to watch these playoffs and see how they kind of play out for some teams with expectations, because if you fall short of them, that's when you see people press the panic button a little bit and try and make some moves, and that's when you're going to get the most for a KD out of this trade. Now, that's happened for a few teams with some big expectations falling flat on their face. Almost a just perfect opportunity here today if the Thunder had fallen. Instead, they blast. I mean, was that not the most anticlimactic Game 7 you've seen maybe ever? I mean, that was an incredible series, back and forth the entire time. I got to cover a few of those games, and Game 7 was just trash. That thing was done early, and Denver was so beat up, but that's completely besides the point. Look, the first thing that you got to look at right now for the trade market for KD is that it has swung dramatically since the last time we talked about this for a number of reasons. The biggest being KD is no longer the biggest fish in this free agent pond, which is wild because this was supposed to be the summer of KD. They're supposed to be suitors, at least interested, not sure kind of how the timelines fit, but people were going to make offers at him. He is now number 2, and a firm number 2 behind Giannis Antetokounmpo. Giannis is going to be one of the biggest free agents, probably. People keep manipulating their way into free agency and stuff like that, but he's going to be one of the biggest free agents in a hot second because he's still in his prime, a guy that has MVPs, a guy that's won a championship, defensive player of the year. He's got everything and does everything well. And the problem is a lot of the teams that are going to be interested in him were the same ones that are going to be interested in the Suns going after Durant. Everyone's going to want Giannis over Durant at this point. I mean, it's not close. So now, rather than kind of dictating the market a little bit, the Suns are going to have to sit and wait, figure out what happens with Giannis, and then that's going to take perhaps the biggest buyer off of the market. And then whoever's left, there'll be a smaller bidding war going after Durant. The problem is the fits for where Giannis goes were a lot of the same teams that the Suns would have loved to try and make a deal with. The Houston Rockets talking about trying to move Sengun and maybe, one or two of their extra ancillary pieces, make the contracts work, some draft picks. Boy, the Suns would have loved to make deals with the Rockets and trying to get some of their young talent, get some of their own picks back, because they're going to be really good. Those picks are going to be for the next few years. Spurs, maybe. I mean, there's so much talk about them being interested in pairing up somebody with Victor Wembanyama. He's there too, but the problem is everyone is going to be calling Milwaukee first. They're going to take Phoenix's phone call, but they're going to tell them, hey, we're going to call you back real quick, put them on hold. And Phoenix is going to be stuck sitting in their office, looking at their phone, twiddling their thumbs, waiting for Giannis to be the first domino that falls in this free agency market. Because after he falls is when the next pieces start going. And it's not like Durant's just some random throwaway piece. He's an incredible player. He's no Giannis at this point in his career, which makes this rough for the Suns. You're going to be doing a lot of sitting and waiting, just waiting for that phone call to finally ring of people kind of interested in coming in. But it's Giannis. I totally get it. Giannis is a top 3 player in the league today and will be for the next probably 5 years before maybe he starts his downcline a little bit. But if you can get him, he can change your franchise. He makes you immediately into a team that is a contender. He carried a Bucks team that didn't have Lillard for the entire season, basically, it felt like, into the playoffs. And Kyle Kuzma was the third option there. Kyle Kuzma. So that's the state of the first market of free agency. So unfortunate if you're a Phoenix fan. The second thing now is on the bright side. It's going to get darker before it's, all said and done. But on the bright side, there are some new contenders for trade market deals that came into this thing. I said, look at teams with expectations that fell flat on their face. There's been a lot of that in this playoffs. LA had huge expectations. Obviously, they don't really have the pieces to try and make a move like that for Durant, unless you're looking at Reeves and a couple of trash picks. That ain't really going to do too much for you right there. Clippers fell on their face. Don't really have kind of the pieces and the draft picks that you'd want there either. You can keep them on the back burners, but I mean, that's not really there. But in the East gets interesting. Cleveland won a ton of games this year. They had huge expectations, and they looked awful in the postseason. Now, part of that was injuries, but they weren't hurt for that entire series. And even when they had all of their main guys, they were still getting banged up, and they were still getting absolutely throttled in their series against the Pacers. So now they're knocked out. What do? They run back, try and run the same thing, win a bunch of regular season games, get to the postseason. Because everyone's going to kind of, no matter what they do this entire season, no one's going to take them seriously because it's going to be, okay, we've seen this before. This team's still not built to win in the postseason. They could really use another scorer, a guy that can get a shot, because once they got to the postseason, it looks an awful lot like they only had one guy that could go out there and make a play. And everyone else was kind of standing around and looking around. And Spider was the only guy that could make anything happen for him. They got some draft picks. The ones that are theirs and completely not. They have 2 firsts that are in trade swaps in the next few years. They also have 2 future firsts that are way down the line. Feels like an awful long time to wait if you want to try and go get those picks, because it's not till 2030 and 2031. But they do have a 2026 that's on trade swap and a 2028 that's on trade swap. A few seconds. Seconds don't really do too much for you, but they got some firsts to play with. They also have some decent young talent. You talk about maybe getting a Darius Garland in the trade and Max Strus maybe to make the contracts work, and a few firsts, 2 or 3. I know Phoenix said they wanted 4. I feel like that's a bit of a pipe dream, but not terrible. Not the complete overhaul that you would like. I don't know if Garland really pushes the needle all that much, but you like to get those picks. Strus is a nice, decent piece. It's nothing that you lose your mind over, but all of a sudden, at least if nothing else, the Cavaliers are going to be examining options out there, because what happened in the postseason was rough. Same thing for the Celtics. Celtics are really weird, though. How much do they blame what happened on having Jason Tatum get hurt? They did win it the year before. Everybody on that roster is locked up, basically. But having Tatum get hurt is an interesting spot, because he's not going to be back for a while with his injury. So are they thinking they're going to still be able to compete next year? Is he going to be gone the entire season next year? Come back late, takes a while to kind of still get back into it. So are they kind of punting already on next year? And if that's the case, you're not trading for KD for something that's going to be 2 years down the line. They're clearly not trading Tatum. I'm not saying he's on the table, but you could have maybe got like a Porzingis. If you could get him to part ways with Pritchard would be a really nice piece. Sam Hauser off the bench is a nice guy for him. They have some picks. There's options there. I think it feels like they're just gonna have to punt on next year without Tatum and just run it with what they got, because there's no way you trade Tatum ever. At least not for a Durant. Like it would take I don't know, Luka. It would take maybe 4 or 5 guys in the league that you consider and actually would maybe deal. But if you're not going to win it, it doesn't make sense to try and trade for Durant either. So I don't know if they're there. I don't know what their moves are next year. Boston kind of lost in the postseason this year and next year. But at least there's conversations probably to be had there. The Rockets still feel like the best fit for a trade. Seems to work really well for both teams. The last piece of this where it got a little bit dark again is, unfortunately, with the Thunder winning today. We were so close. If the Thunder would have lost today, they got 60 million first-round picks over there. Bunch of really good young guys that have, at times, been really shaky this postseason. Shai's been awesome, but everyone else in that roster has been up and down, some of them completely down in the series. Regular season, great, but they're young guys. You got to give them some time. But if they would have lost today, I'm not saying they hang up that call. I'm not saying they got 6 first-round picks that they're interested in. Conversely, now you got an interesting thing with the Nuggets. Nuggets are out. Could you get a Michael Porter Jr., Christian Brown, some firsts for KD? It's a pretty nasty pairing for him over there. Maybe it works out. Maybe there's a deal to be made now with Denver. You would have loved it to have been OKC strictly for the fact of the treasure chest of first-round picks that they have over there. But there's a couple of nice pieces over there in Denver as well. And it feels like they aren't far off from blowing this thing up because the postseason showed us it was Jokic. Murray didn't really give you much of anything, it felt like, this entire series. Never really had a moment where he took over a game, it felt like. Still a few more rounds to go. Thunder could lose this round easily to Minnesota, who's been red hot. They seem to have found something with Julius Randle, who all of a sudden looks like one of the best players in the postseason. And if that happens, then those doors open up again, I think. Maybe they decide to run it back and say, we went from second round to conference finals. Let's keep this core and let's see where we go. But still opportunities there to be had. But like I said, first thing that you got to watch and pay attention to is the Giannis piece, because whatever happens with Giannis is going to dictate where the market is, and everybody's going to be taking their shot for Giannis first. And so the Suns, unfortunately, are the second girl of this dance. And so you're waiting for who's left. Felt for a long time they were going to be the first one, but Giannis entered the chat, and now everybody's going to be interested in him first. So